right. Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins Trivers, also known as Byron Sidious. Today we're going to do a brief little chit chat, briefly outlined here, entitled Have We Given Up? I'm well aware that there are larger, far more relevant channels that have pointed this problem out, but I'm going to add my voice to the chorus. We seem to be approaching creative bankruptcy. I encourage you to check out some of those other channels: Clownfish TV, Night's Watch, Nerdrotic, Overlord DVD, just to name a few. Between sequels, reboots, retcons, and reimaginings, as well as prequels, it feels like there's nothing new or original being made for public entertainment consumption. On occasion, this is done well, and should be praised when it is carried off successfully. Roll your eyes at me if you'd like, but the example of a well-made reboot, in my view, cinematically, would be the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. I rather enjoy them. Sony Pictures has managed with these movies something that Disney seemed to be incapable of doing since the end of Marvel's Phase 3, which is to make fun and engaging superhero cinema without slowing to a crawl to lecture the audience about real-world socio-political claptrap and nonsense. Yeah, you have a guy who turns into a giant green CGI monster when he gets mad. So don't try talking shit so seriously to us and browbeating us when we don't, as an audience or as a culture, seem to agree with whatever message it is you're trying to put forth. All right? You've got superheroes in spandex. Maybe try toning down how much you want to tell your audience they suck, especially when they're the ones who are paying you. The cultural stagnation is prevalent in the written arena too. Were you aware of the latest publishing trend, this quote, dino erotica? Yeah, that's a thing. Short novellas cranked out that feature anthropomorphized dinosaurs getting hot and heavy with humans and try to bang their way to peaceful coexistence. How did this happen? Well, this follows years of Bigfoot erotica, actually, where the Sasquatch usually falls in lust with various lady cryptozoologists and or feds trying to capture and cover him up, and with their help, he turns the tables and eludes capture. Fans of older IPs are constantly told to stop their whinging and belly aching, to, quote, accept that it's current year now, and that your precious ist property needs to reflect modern sensibilities. Why? Why not instead do the honest work of creating a whole new thing of your own? My apologies, you'll hear my kiddos in the background. Um, but why don't they do something wholly new and independently created? BIA is why, of course. BIA is what production companies want now, because the numbers are all that matter. What is BIA? Built-in audience. For movies, the BIA is critical to getting anything greenlit in times of economic turmoil or downturn. Studios don't want to fork out lots of money unless they can virtually guarantee a significant profit or ROI, return on investment. The same largely holds true for television as well. So why is this lowest denominator, trashy, poorly, if at all, edited kind of rot seeping into the written realm? Simple. It's easy. It's formulaic. I'm not trying to say that there's no skill whatsoever involved in writing erotica, or that literary smut requires no talent at all. No. However, I will say that a great deal of it is repetitive, hackneyed, and derivative. Furthermore, I will confess to having myself read through 3 of these 35,000 word Bigfoot stories just to see if they were as terrible as I suspected they would be. Newsflash, they mostly were. Garbage, terrible, amateur hour, smut. I say mostly terrible here, however, because they were all written with a sort of fairly tongue in cheek humor. And some bits made me genuinely chuckle a little bit to myself. There is a laugh to be had in these. That's why I have Kindle Unlimited. The program is terrible for quality authors who don't want Amazon to end up being a book selling monopoly, but useful for folks who read a lot and are willing to dig hard and long for new and undiscovered talents like Jonathan Brage or Scott Burtness. I highly encourage you to look them up. But I digress. The money people don't want to take big chances, and this is why smaller budget indie titles can sometimes break through, or low budget films that are well written and require no special effects or high cost talent. The money people want to minimize their exposed risk, which is logically what they're supposed to do. We tend to generally reward them in a free market. However, and I must say this, what seems more and more to be the pressing problem that blows this thing wide open is that artists themselves, are no longer willing to take chances. They chase the payday, compromising away their vision in exchange for the payday. Or for fear of being fucking cancelled and told that they are terrible people, they don't actually engage in producing the narrative that they genuinely want to create. It's going to end up leading us down this slaughterhouse charnel chute to a state where everything is derivative and gray and colorless, tasteless, and meaningless, and devoid of any artistic merit whatsoever. If you need proof, look no further than the televisual oozing herpes sore that is Mindy Kaling's Velma. When she initially pitched this animated abortion to HBO, it was conceived as an original cast that only used the Scooby Gang as a loose archetype for parallel comparison. Owning the rights to Scooby, HBO's execs gave her project a green light if, and only if, she agreed to drape her project in the flayed skins of the Mystery Gang, and Kaling, ever the self-involved and self-serving payday shill, said sure. The show would have been a surefire suckfest, one way or the other, but HBO held out hope for the BIA to overcome Mindy Kaling's knack for shite writing. Jury's still out on that because that thing is the hate watch magnet of the decade right now. Now, I've leveled blame at the producers and the creators here in almost even shares. But there's one more group of people, one more group of folks who need to accept some share of the blame for the state of media as it is. Us, the consumers. We do have a share of blame to take. We need to own up to it. This one's going to suck because as consumers, we can't do much to determine what gets offered up for us to watch, listen to, or read. We really don't have a great deal of say in what's going to be created. Except that's not entirely true. We make it known with our wallets, with our money, what we want and what we don't. The challenge comes, however, in adding words directly to our money. For instance, if you want to cancel Netflix because of the trash that they put out, like Cuties, which was vile and disgusting, and Big Mouth, which was also in many ways disgusting. But you hang on to it because of things like Stranger Things, which was a pretty good production, and Black Mirror, which I fucking loved. It was a tremendous anthology series. You need to let Netflix know that. We've seen boycotts and even threats of boycotts do immense work in getting companies to change what they intend to do and how they carry on their practice and their productions. I know a lot of folks are sick and tired of hearing that they should step into such collective efforts, but just look at how successful that they have been historically. All right? The proof is in the pudding. When they don't work out, these boycotts, it's often because the company finds a way to write off their failures. Maybe we need legislation of some sort to reduce that we can't lose mentality. I don't know. That's a discussion for folks who are far smarter than myself and who are much more into the political and legislative arena when it comes to what they know and what they can properly try to arrange or organize. My point is, we as the audience need to take some ownership, take it upon ourselves to incentivize new work, different work, alternative work, to support and reward projects that aren't more of the same. And to my fellow artists, the following message. Okay? Grow a spine. Quit thinking only of what will get you the biggest payoff. Andrei Sapkowski and George R. R. Martin chased the money and fame. And how did that work out for their material in adapted form? The Witcher is self-immolating on Netflix right now. This Blood Origin thing was one of the most tragic, just non tied in pieces of visual crap I have ever been exposed to on a streaming service based upon another property. I know I should maybe count Rings of Power in there, but guess what? I can't include that because I haven't watched it, and I'm not going to. We can't get at the money folks directly. No. But if they see us opening our wallets for something other than what they're pumping out right now and have been pumping out and throwing at our foreheads for the last decade or so, they'll have to change course because eventually they're going to watch their market share start to trickle away from the absolute piffle that they've been presenting as our only set of options towards something that they don't control. It's not just the money potential that a lot of these production people go after. They want cultural dominance. And if some grassroots or smaller set of projects start leading the dialogue, particularly online, they're going to take notice. Every time an independent or small creator starts putting out their own material, questions abound about, well, how are they paying for this? How are they producing it? Where can I get the product? And these are legitimate questions. They're all fair questions to be asked. Part of the challenge also comes in when we look at things like the Ripaverse, which I'm not overtly familiar with the material, but I am familiar with the fact that there was a kerfuffle because the funding was being done through PayPal, and PayPal locked down Eric July's account, so he couldn't get the funding that his voluntary backers had chosen to pay in for. Again, I'm not the person to try and talk about these issues at length because I am not bright enough to really understand the full ramifications and nuance and details that go into these things. What I do know is that in a economic system that purportedly holds itself up on the concept of voluntarism, where we, the people who are going to consume this media, are choosing ourselves to fund it. The person who is creating the material should be receiving our funds, but it was being held back from the creator by a third party because we couldn't give him the funds directly because there's this middleman management step. So how are we supposed to create or support new creations when the means of providing the funding is controlled by an ideologically opposed company or group that is a middleman? They say, oh, good heavens, this goes so much against what we want to support that we're just going to cut you off at the knees and block entirely your ability to fund the creation of this project. Well, then we can't consume it. And then it gets shelved, or then it winds up under the radar. And no one's going to cover a creative endeavor that doesn't actually get created. Why? Because there's no way to access it. If you want new material, if you want to get away from the reboots, the reimaginings, the sequels, the prequels, if you want to get away from this cultural stagnation, if you want to shout at the rooftops, we have not given up, then you need to find a way to support the creators who are making original content that does not feed in to the churn mill of garbage that we are being served as an audience as our only option. You don't have to support people like myself, okay? But I would strongly encourage you to find artistic creators who are willing to say, maybe I'm not going to make as much money by doing this, but at least it'll offer people something different. Anyhow, that's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.